streaming to. We're streaming to 3 platforms. And welcome to the Useful Content Creation Show, the Saturday edition. The edition where we talk, we're a little bit more loose. We have a little bit more leeway to have conversations. However, we do have to promptly finish in about 45 minutes today because our guest is a very busy lady and she has stuff to do. She has to go enlighten some people. So for all those who may not know you, Carla, please introduce yourself.
It is a pleasure to be here this afternoon. It's not morning anymore.
Oh, it is afternoon.
It
Yes,
is
that's true.
officially afternoon.
Officially,
Hi,
yeah.
everyone. I am Carla. Everyone calls me Carly because my business is Carly Communications, and I help business owners and entrepreneurs understand how to use the media and how to build visibility in the real world. So it's not about social media per se, but how to marry the online and the offline to give you exactly what you need, which is to build your brand on a global scale. So that's what I do.
Okay, great. So what is the story of how come you don't have Carly Communications as a website?
You know, when I was creating the website, it was originally supposed to be Carly Communications, and the person that did it said he found it was too long. And if we did carlycom.com, people may not remember the second M in carlycom, and it might make mistakes.
Oh.
So Carly Media is what came up because I am a media person at heart. So what I did, I bought carlymedia.com, but if you type in Carly Communications or carlycom.com, it reroutes you.
Oh, really? Let me try that right now.
carlicom.com or carlycommunicationsfullword.com. It reroutes you. I was not making that mistake.
Let me see. It does reroute.
Yes.
It does reroute. It actually,
Yes.
actually, because that's good thinking. That's good thinking.
Yeah.
So that's some good advice there right off the bat. If you can buy your domain of your actual company name, do it. That's what we did years ago too. We own a lot of domains.
Oh.
Maybe too much. We gave up some last year during the pandemic, saying, "Why are we paying for these things? We're not going to use them." But yeah, that's some good advice. Right. So you said you had some teaching to go do after this?
Yes. So one of the things I do, I teach PR and crisis management with a few schools here in Trinidad and Tobago. But on Saturdays, it's CTS College out there in Chaguanas. That is what I do on a Saturday. I teach people how to build their brand through the use of PR, the media, and also I help them with crisis management as well, because I find that is so important now, right? Some people are losing their minds when it comes to social media. They want to do and say whatever they want because they feel like this is, some sort of thing that they could hide behind. But it really does, do a number on your business if you're not very careful about what you say. So I do help them with crisis management, what to do if the proverbial shit hits the fan, right? What do you do in that instance?
Right. So crisis management in a case where, okay, explain to me what exactly, give me an example of what crisis management would look like for you.
So crisis management when it comes to business is, let's say you do or say something that was miscommunicated or not received in the right way. If it is that your employee or somebody does or says something that angers your community or upsets people, how do you fix it as a business? How do you get back in people's good graces through the use of the media? So I actually have a 4-step process that I actually walk people through. It's called the ABCDs of crisis management. Right. And then during the program, I expand on that a lot. Okay, A stands for act immediately. So you don't want people to be like, oh my God, how could they say that? If it has, you have to apologize. How do you get people to forgive you faster? B stands for be visible. This is the time to be seen. C stands for create a new strategy, because now your existing strategy has taken a major hit. And D stands for don't give up, because a lot of business owners feel like when something bad happens, that's the end of it. It really isn't. There is a way to fix it, and you just don't give up. So that's what I walk people through, how to respond to a crisis when something bad happens.
Oh, that's excellent. Let me just shout out some people on LinkedIn here who are coming onto the platform and showing us some love. Unfortunately, on Saturday, we can't show live comments from LinkedIn, but we can shout out people. So let me just give a shout out to my faithful unit. What did I get unit from? Useful content community on LinkedIn. Stokely Clark. Stokely is on, and he is saying he's busy, but he'll watch your rebroadcast, and he threw some bulbs up for you. He remembers from earlier this week. Gary is on. Gary's off from the UK. He is the Sandwich King, and he does a series called Contentless Content, Tales from the Sink, which is it's quite interesting. Marie's on. Good afternoon, Marie. And Richard. Hey, Richard is also from the UK. Yeah, you can troll me live, Richard, if you want to. Go ahead. No problem. I'll accept your trolling live. Carly, I'm always saying Carly. And Carly will teach me how to survive that crisis of you trolling.
I'm pretty sure it won't be a crisis, but I will help you wherever I can.
Yeah. So Richard, do your best, and we'll see if we can manage you. I'll throw some curveballs as while we're talking. I'll see if we can manage you. And Alec is here on LinkedIn, and he's saying hello. And of course, I have Akko on Facebook, but his name is Sugar Akko. I don't know why your name is Sugar Shack on Facebook, but thanks for jumping on anyway. All right. So crisis. So crisis management. In terms of moving from a place of people having a particular public perception of your company based on something that maybe one of the principals in the company said, or somebody in the an employee said, what and I know you just outlined the steps, but is it that every single crisis takes a different length of time to resolve, or is it that is it so it's like a case by case basis?
It really is a case by case basis, but one of the ways to shorten the length of time that it takes to recover from a crisis is to don't wait until something bad happens to then get PR. And that's what I try to teach people. We've learned that PR is only useful when there's a crisis and we need to fix things. But it's very hard to forgive somebody when they do something wrong if you don't know who they are and what they stand for and what they do and what they're about. So that's why it's good to create that public persona, that public perception, build that relationship through your interviews, through being featured, through putting yourself out there. So when something bad happens, if it actually does happen, it's easier to forgive you. It's quicker, right? And you can get to the end of the crisis much sooner.
How does can you explain to me what is the role that content plays in PR? How do you marry both together? Is it because I myself am not 100% clear as to the difference between somebody who is putting content out there to build trust and awareness for their business, so they know you, like you, and want to do business with you type of thing, and doing PR. What is the differentiating factor between those two things?
I don't think there's much of a differentiating factor per se. I mean, the whole point about public relations is to make relationships public and to go public with your relationships and to build those relationships in a public sphere. So doing content and putting great content out there is a way to build those relationships. I think the only real difference is the type of content. So through PR, you're going to talk about, what you stand for, what your goals are. A lot of people talk about their story, which is very important, how they came to be, because no one cares about Carla Williams Johnson, CEO of Carly Communications. Everyone cares about all the different nonsense that I had to go through to get to this point, right? So you once you share pieces of yourself and the things that you've gone through, people resonate with you sooner. Although content is part of that, I feel like content is on a broader scale. So you give tips and strategies and plans and those types of things. But PR is not necessarily about that. PR is about you, the person.
Oh, so you're saying there's a differentiation. So the type of content that you make can be defined as PR content. That's what you're saying?
I think so. I mean, there is a huge overlap, but there is such a thing as I would call PR content, because yes, you have to give tips and strategies, but that's not the real goal of PR. PR, as I said, it's the long game. So it's about building that relationship and building that personality on a on the online space and even on the offline space, right?
Mm.
But putting that out there so people could resonate with you more and they would listen. So when you do give the strategies and you do give the advice and you do give the quotes, they actually listen to you rather than, oh, this is just somebody else talking. Let me just, scroll through or bypass.
In your mind, what is the most effective channels for PR?
It depends on your audience.
Okay, so give me an example. So what if like for example for somebody who is well, I guess that will definitely tie in for every aspect of content creation.
Yeah.
So for you, what has been effective for you in your public relations?
TV. Once I do TV, I book a client. It doesn't matter. Once I appear on television, I book a client. Somehow television just makes people sit up and look at you. Now, I have been in Forbes, I have been in Huffington Post. That wakes people up as well. When they hear those things, they actually perk up and listen more. But once I'm on TV, I don't know if it's because they see and hear me at the same time, but that really resonates with people.
Yeah, yeah, terrestrial TV. You're talking about traditional TV, right? Terrestrial
Yeah,
TV.
traditional TV. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've and we mentioned this earlier in this week. That's what Jamie did, and it really impacted
Yeah.
uh, a
Yeah.
business for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. All content is PR, but some is specifically intended for PR. Okay, yeah, that's what Richard is saying on LinkedIn,
Oh, great. Yes,
and
that's
and
true.
Marie is saying from what you're saying, PR content is specific to relationship development.
Yes. Yeah. You want to maintain that relationship. You don't want people to only know you as the person that sells, right? Or the person that has this offer. You want
Mm.
people to know you as the person and why you care so much about serving the people that you serve or helping the people that you help. Why do you care so much? That is what PR is about.
Yeah, definitely. And Dyer is saying that he likes that taking in front with your crisis to build relationship. Don't get caught unaware when the crisis hits. So that
Agreed.
is commenting on that. So you
Agreed.
blogged recently about well, not recently, but you blogged within recent time. Um well, that's actually, it's kind of an old blog because you haven't blogging a whole lot. But
So you've been scrolling through my blogs, have
I
you?
have been scrolling through your blogs. I've been looking at stuff. So H&M, right? They made a big misstep some time ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that whole H&M fiasco, coolest monkey in the jungle
Uh-huh.
sweater that this young African boy had on, and everybody was like crazy over it because it was so racist. But they weren't the only ones, right? We had Prada, we had Good American, we had Pepsi with the whole Kendall Jenner. Like a lot of companies get it wrong, right? They get it wrong and they get it wrong a little bit more often. And I always say a simple focus group to prevent all of this, right? So for
Right.
those who don't know what a focus group is when you get a group of people who your intended target audience and you run a campaign and you ask for feedback, how they received it, what do they think, how could it be better, that sort of thing. And it takes a while, but it prevents these expensive mistakes that these companies do.
Hmm.
And it helps you not to have to figure out how to deal with a crisis at the end. Because dealing with a crisis is expensive,
Yeah.
right? It's very expensive. So a simple focus group and asking people who fall within the ideal target, what do you think, could prevent all of that.
Yeah, yeah. I agree 100%. Because I think if they had just done a tiny, tiny bit of research,
Yeah.
it would have avoided that. Richard is asking, have you got a calendar? What do you mean, Richard? Are you aware that the Gerald Ratner goof from many years ago in the UK? I don't know. Richard, tell us about that. Do you know
Please
about
do.
that?
Please do know. I don't know if he's referring to a publicity calendar, if he's
Are you
referring
referring
to
to
that.
publicity calendar, Richard? Let's know, and Carla
I will
will
answer.
talk to you. Is there some such a thing as a publicity calendar?
Oh, yes, there is. So, a publicity calendar is something that can help you plan your PR more effectively. So, your publicity calendar looks like, okay, we have our normal dates that we know. We have New Year's, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, um, Then we have our special days like International Women's Day, International Men's Day. Then
Mhm.
we have our different months. So we have Mental Health Month, Men's Care Month, Children's Month. And then we have these fun holidays like National Cupcake Day, National Sleep All Day Day,
Oh,
National,
or people
whatever
want
day.
to see your content on that National
So
Sleep All Day.
yes. So what happens is that a lot of people don't know that these special days or dates or months exist. But you can now plan your content around that. So if you are into health care, mental health care, you can do a lot of content simply around mental health month, right? And you can do a
Mhm.
lot of speaking engagements talking about that to then build your business because people will be more perceptive to what it is that you're saying during those special days. And sometimes it's a great way to educate people. So if they don't know that mental health month exists and you're doing this entire campaign just around that month, you can now educate more people. So a publicity calendar is a great way to really plan your not just your PR but also your marketing strategy around all of these special events and special days.
Yeah, I find that, and this, let me just reveal something here. I find that to be extremely difficult to do.
Why though?
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Okay, for those who don't know, Trinidad and Tobago has the one of the highest number of holidays.
Yeah, we do.
Is it in the world?
In the world.
In the
In the
world, how
world.
many holidays do we have?
I don't know, but they said if you condense it, it'll be probably about 4 months, 6 months worth of holidays.
Yeah, we have a
Kind of
lot of
ridiculous.
holidays. We have and part of the reason for that is a good reason. Part of the reason for that because we're so diverse. We have so many different people. We have so many different cultures and religions and stuff like that. So we're a melting pot in a true sense. And but as a result of that, everybody's like, I want my day.
Yeah.
And what has happened is that we have made it for some companies what you would call with small budgets a PR nightmare because they now have to they create content and not just sometimes you see this kind of it's like a template or kind of a wishy-washy kind of
I think
something,
I think in that respect, that's when you're trying to be all things to everybody.
Yeah.
And in marketing, if you can't do it, whether it's here in Trinidad or somewhere in the States or in UK, where some of your viewers are listening to from right now, you can't be all things to everybody. And these, I mean, gone are the days of running a Merry Christmas ad or a Happy Diwali ad or a Happy New, like those things don't really work. Those things don't really work. People don't care about those things anymore. What they want to know is, are you giving back to the community around the holiday season? Do they want to know, are you giving to the churches or the mosques or the temples? Like,
Right.
what are you actually doing? And that is more impactful than trying to be everywhere and trying to do everything.
I have a question from Stokely, which I'll get to, and I have an update from Richard about the guy he was talking about, which I now remember that I do know the Gerald Ratner guy because I listened to a podcast. I think it was Revisionist History with Malcolm Gladwell, and he spoke about that guy. But let me ask you a question based on your comment. What is your take on people who go out to do publicity, especially with people who are less fortunate, and then take their pictures and post it?
So, as with anything, there's a way to do things, right? I do not agree with going out for the sole purpose of taking pictures. But I do agree that you have to let people know how you can help them. And I'll give you a perfect example of this.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago, we had bad flooding in Central to the
Yeah.
point, remember, I don't remember if you know that people were sleeping on their roofs and stuff like that, right?
Well, let me give everybody some context. So in Trinidad and Tobago, there are certain parts of the country that flood. If there are heavy rainfalls, almost every year there are floods. And central Trinidad is one of the low-lying, is a water basin, one of the low-lying areas. So a lot of times during the year, if there are heavy rainfalls, those places will flood. Just for context, right? And this is in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes. And this one particular year, which I think was about 3 years ago, there was a bad rainfall, and a lot of houses were underwater. Just their roofs were, visible. So
Yes.
a lot of people had to rent dinghies and boats and stuff to rescue people. And then there were people who were stranded, right? They couldn't move. They weren't necessarily flooded out, but they couldn't get to food and water and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
there were a lot of people who rose to the occasion. They were given food, they were given medical supplies, and all of these things. My boyfriend at the time was stranded. Wasn't flooded out, but he was stranded. Him and his neighbor, they were stranded. And because of where they lived, people would pass that avenue or whatever you call it. They would pass it straight, and they would give everybody else what they needed, but he would never get. But because these people were posting of what they were doing, I was able to contact at least three people, and maybe about 2 nights later, he got 2 sets of packages, care packages, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember he called me that night, and every single person who was living in that area got, because I called based on what I saw people were doing on social media. And he called me and he said, Carla, if you weren't so persistent and you didn't get to call these people, we would have been stranded here with no water, with no nothing, because we couldn't leave.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want people to know that self promotion is not a bad thing, but it's how you do it. I don't agree with sticking your camera in people's faces because you're giving them something. But I do agree with letting people know, hey, I am available to do this. Because you never know. In this case, I saved quite a few lives
Right.
because of the information that was out there. I saved quite a few families because of the information that was put out there. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, it does. It does shed some light on it. So the fact that they had shared that content of the activity that they were doing, you were able to contact very specific people to help.
Yeah.
I was just talking about kind of specifically when people literally do like selfies or take images of unfortunate people, like they do it in such of a dehumanizing way,
Yeah, and that is where inauthenticity comes through, because we can tell when you're just doing it, because you want to be seen. I remember a reporter was fired for that because she was pretending to help board up a building or paint a building or something like that, and she just did it for the picture, right? That is where inauthenticity comes through, and people will see that it's you're doing something that's pretty disgusting, and I don't agree with that. But if you're doing it from the heart and you're genuinely helping people, then by all means put it up there, because you never know who might see it and who might need help.
Do you think it's good for people to get permission to do that, to post, or do you think it's required, or do you think we shouldn't really ask?
I think you could ask for permission, depending on the situation. I mean, if somebody is disrobed or in some other condition that you wouldn't want to be seen in, it's okay to ask permission. But I think in a lot of cases you don't really need to ask permission. You can just use what the Lord gave you, and figure out if this is something that you want people to know about, and if it were you, if you would want other people to know about it.
Yeah, that's a hard one, because people have different standards for what's okay and what's not. And sometimes, judging situations by your standards sometimes is a rough thing. But I understand what you're saying.
If you can ask for permission, great. But I feel like in some cases you don't really need to. But it really depends on the situation.
Right. Okay, let's get back to the comments and let's catch up with some things people are saying here. So Stokely has a question. I'm going to go through the comments and then I'll come back to Stokely's question. So Richard is telling me he can figure out when the blog was. It was a couple of years back, that particular blog, but there are more recent ones. Marie is saying a publicity calendar sounds very interesting. Never heard of it, but I have been doing something like that for our business. So that's cool.
Great.
That's cool. And of course, Richard is explaining. So Gerald Ratner, I listened to this podcast, and Gerald Ratner was the head of a large jewelry chain. I think he had come from nothing, and he was not, he was a kind of a guy, it was a kind of a rags to riches story. And he had to go up before all of these people of high regard and talk to them about his jewelry and what he's been doing. And his stores were like, it's I don't know. I think you should go try listen to the podcast from Malcolm Gladwell to get that story. I can't explain all of it, but basically, he called his own products trash, and there was a big fallout after that. He basically literally
Why
called
did he
his.
call his own products trash?
He's trying to be disarming, and he's trying to be
Oh.
relatable, and he picked the the wrong route to do that. You know, he was, what do you call that when you self-deprecating? He was being a little self-deprecating and stuff because he was, he was just kind of, but in so doing, he offended the people who were his biggest audience,
Wow.
his biggest customer segment. And I don't think he ever recovered. He had to resign and all those different
Oh
things.
my goodness.
That was years ago. That's a big story, from rags to riches, and there was a fall afterwards. But I listened to a podcast about it because Malcolm Gladwell, well, he went and did a kind of a deep dive on it. So we should check that out. That's a great story,
I will.
a PR story.
I will.
Daya is saying, nah, man, we don't have about 4 months worth of holidays.
I feel like we do, though. It feels that way.
It feels that way sometimes.
It feels that way.
Oh, okay. He had been asked about how he could sell a particular item so cheap. He was selling things at a certain price, and he said it was rubbish, and it cost him
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and it cost them a fortune in sales, a drop in share price, and a ruined reputation, which is the last thing you want.
Yeah.
Our reputation is hard to get back.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back up to Stokely's question because I think it's a really excellent question, right? So Stokely asked, how do you navigate in this time of cancel culture? Because plenty groups are easily offended and labeled.
That is an excellent question. So here's how you navigate. You stay true to your people. You stay true to your people and forget the rest. I remember a couple years ago, Hallmark did a Christmas campaign or ad, right? And it was pro LGBTQ. And the Christian community got upset. And then they pulled it, and then the LGBTQ community get upset. And then the week after, they put it back up. You see that wishy-washy? That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. You have to stay true to your people. You have to be clear on who your target audience is and focus on them alone. Because if you try to be everything to all people, it's never going to work. You also have to be very respectful and mindful. So I know a lot of people, and this is a specific example, right? I know a lot of people do not subscribe to the LGBTQ community, and that's fine. That's fine for you. But that doesn't give you the right to bash them or to speak negatively of them because that's what your audience wants to hear. You can stay away from that topic. You don't need to get into that to sell your product. You don't have to bash something to sell something else, right? So you have to be respectful. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, I feel like because we have so much different cultures and people and races, we are very versed with that level of respect, right? Because we have so many different things going on. But a lot of people in a lot of other countries, they think it's okay because they don't subscribe to a certain thing to be negative about it. No, that's not how you do things. In the PR world, stay clear and stay true to your people, but don't be disrespectful to the ones that don't fall within your ideal audience.
Yeah, I just think that it requires a lot of wisdom, and it requires a lot of awareness of what the audience you're speaking to most definitely. And as I like to say, you are not the one. You yourself personally are not the judge. Yeah. All right. So you have to be very, very mindful about those things, and but you do have to take a stance on certain things. You do have to have a clear differentiation between what you feel is right and what you feel is wrong, and you take a stance based on that. So, for example, let me give you an example of that. I think it was Gillette. Gillette had tackled the issue of toxic masculinity, and they had done this campaign, and it's trendy. It's trendy. It's like the Pepsi ad with this Jenner girl. It was trendy at the time. You're jumping on the whole the Me Too stuff, and that was something. And in my mind, they really offended a lot of their core, or the men shave.
Yeah, the manly man.
Yeah, the manly man. Those are the guys who were buying. So companies like Dollar Shave Club and some of those other companies, they rejoiced because their shares went up. because people abandoned Gillette in that moment and started to look for alternatives because their core, basically, they sidelined their whole core audience in that one moment. So that's important to know.
Yeah.
Stokely saying, thanks for the advice. Yes, you have to be tactful. You have to be tactful. Yeah. You have to move with wisdom. You have to take a
Yeah.
stance. You have to know what you believe in, especially if you are the principal of the company, you own the company. You have to know what you believe in. And if, in fact, it comes to a point of confrontation, you can't change your values in order to, for the, when companies get a certain size, what they think about is the bottom line, about the money, about the shareholders.
Yeah.
And they generally beholden to the shareholders. And there comes a time when you have to make a decision about what you stand for and what you don't stand for. Everybody has to do that. And in the context of business, the same thing applies. There has to be a decision about what you stand for and what you stand for. Obviously, inside of that, having good PR all the time.
Having good PR, yeah. And that's why crisis management is actually important too, yeah? Because sometimes we do and say things and we don't really mean it, right? We don't really, it comes across a wrong way. So we don't really mean it. So, like, for example, we have a certain culture here and we say certain things. But when we go across and we say those same things, for some reason, it's taken in a wrong way, right?
Yes.
So it is a matter of understanding and learning the market that you're in. And if you do say something wrong, how to quickly fix it so it doesn't do the amount of damage that it could do.
All right, bye, Richard. Richard is saying Carla is excellent.
I know. So.
All right, bye, Richard. All right, so let's talk a little bit about your own PR and where you have been. I know you have a list of achievements.
We would be here a week at least. If I
all right, we only have about 15 minutes, so let's try and hold in the 15 minutes. So we have a list of things that you accomplished over the last year or so. Let's just talk about a couple of them. So tell us about the appearance on the UK stuff, the Australia stuff, and the New Zealand stuff.
Oh, so New Zealand was a dream come true. I actually reached out. I sent a pitch actually to be featured on their podcast. And I was so fabulous that they not only put me on their podcast, but they also put me in their summit for women entrepreneurs. And what I loved is that it gave me the opportunity to share my story coming from a third world country, being told that you're not going to make it, being told that you're clearly the wrong color and the wrong gender. You need to get somebody who's high colored to be the face of your company in order for you to make it. I've been told it all, and I was able to take that and turn it into what it is today. Carly Communications is known globally. Carly Communications is number 31 on the list of global PR companies. I have won awards, and if I had listened to these people, then where would I have been today? But I was able to take that negativity and turn it into something positive. And New Zealand helped me to spread my wings, so much so that they offered me my own television show, and they asked me to come across to New Zealand for a month. I'm not going to do it though, but they offered it to me. But my point is, if I didn't put myself out there, I may do the TV show, but if I didn't put it myself out there, then this would have never happened. What was the other appearance you spoke about?
Well, before you go on to there, what was the pitch like? What was that pitch?
They had put out a request looking for women to be interviewed to share their story for their podcast. I believe those were the words that they used. And my pitch was, this is my story. I was born in the wrong country, the wrong color, and the wrong gender for my industry. But guess what? I'm doing it. And I want to share my story to inspire others.
Is that literally what you wrote? Okay, in other words, I'm trying to figure out, how was that process like? So you saw the thing and walk us through how, because I want to find out if I wanted to do that too, what should I do?
Okay, so pitching is an art. Pitching is an art that I would love to teach people to do, because there are different ways to pitch, right? Pitching is an art form. But when you pitch, you answer the question directly. So in their respect, they were asking people to share stories. So my response was, this is my story. This is why your audience would be interested, and why I should share my story to inspire, motivate, and educate your audience. Because clearly their audience were female entrepreneurs. right? So sharing my story coming from a space where I was not supposed to make it, I can serve as an inspiration to your audience. And after I answered that question, why I'd be a great addition for their audience to listen to, then I talked about myself, my accomplishments, what I did, showing that I have experience being featured, etc., etc., etc. So that is
Right.
the process of a pitch.
Right.
So,
When you saw the ad, well, clearly you wrote them, right?
not only time I write them, sometimes I see requests. So as a PR person, I am very privy to getting information to me about different journalists looking for different stories and stuff like that. So sometimes it comes to me and I pitch, and sometimes I say, well, you know what, I'm gonna reach out to this particular person and I'm gonna send a pitch talking about whatever it is I think I should be talking about based on the publication. Because some
Mm.
publications they want to talk to women entrepreneurs, some of them they want to talk to black entrepreneurs, some of them want to talk to mompreneurs. So depending on who they want to talk to, then I tailor my pitch to suit.
So what I was getting at is you literally had to send an email or a document or
An
something. You had to make
email.
up something, and in another case, you might just call and pitch over the phone.
You could pitch over the phone, but the likelihood of you getting selected is slim to none because journalists are busy people. So it's always better to send an email and then follow up with a phone call.
Have you ever considered pitching via video?
I have actually pitched via video more than once.
How did that work out?
Um, out of the three times I got selected twice.
Also,
Still
video
waiting
does
on the
work for
third one.
pitching.
Still waiting on the third one.
Oh, it's
I'll
still
know by
it's
next. Yeah, I'll know by next month for sure.
all right. So then let's not put that in the because
Yeah, I'm keeping that close to my chest.
I could have said 2/3. Well, let's 2/3 and pending, right? Let's
Yes,
put it
I'm friendly.
let's put it that way. So Sri is saying here on LinkedIn, love it that you went out there showing yourself that anything is possible,
Thank you
right?
very much.
And Stokely is saying excellent Trinidad global changes. Well done, Carla. We must remember jazz pianist actress Hazel Scott, black woman in America who got the first TV show. Great Trinidadian talent. Go to the sky. The sky's the limit, Carla.
Thank
And
you.
and Stokely is very, very faithful with his bulbs, which is very good. Thank you, Stokely. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
totally.
I appreciate it. Okay, so that's New Zealand. Let's talk about Australia.
Australia was looking for business owners to talk about, whatever strategies. So I decided I was going to talk about how businesses could pivot during the pandemic because at the time, a lot of countries were still very much on lockdown. The funny thing about Australia is that I have no proof that it happened because just before we were supposed to go live, the entire system crashed. Their system crashed. Like,
Oh,
yeah, and I was in panic mode, even though their system, and they kept calling me to say, "Don't worry, we're gonna come back just now." Like, it was Ticker News, which is like the BBC of Australia. So they
right.
were in panic mode, and I was more panicked than them. And by the time they came back live, the entire interview was so short, guys. It was like so short. I had prepared like a 5 minute, and it was like maybe 2 minutes, right? So I had to kind of rush through everything. It's a good thing I know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
But it didn't record. It didn't
Oh, they didn't
record.
record it.
No,
Oh,
and I wish I had somebody like take a screenshot somewhere so that I would have proof, but I have no proof. No proof.
oh.
I'll see if
Well,
I'll do it again though. I'll probably do it again and hopefully nothing breaks down.
yeah. I have had a couple times when that's happened to me. The first recording is always the most important. That's the thing you get everything else from. So that one has to work.
Yeah.
That one has to work, most definitely. All right, I'm seeing the time ticking down. Let's talk about your masterclass.
Oh,
Before it sneaks up on us and you have to literally run out of the frame.
so one of the things I absolutely love doing is empowering my people, and I want to empower my people through PR because online is great, but it is overcrowded. Everybody's online, everybody's talking. It's a lot of noise. And I really want to help business owners and entrepreneurs really break through, the noise and the clutter of the online space. And one of the great ways to do that is through the use of PR and publicity. So I'm hosting a media masterclass. It is I'm looking at my calendar on the 24th and the 26th of this month, which is week after next, because today's Saturday. It's a Tuesday and Thursday. And I am going to help you understand how easy it is to book media. Like I'm literally going to walk you through these steps. This is what you do first. This is what you do second. This is what you do third. Because it's very easy to get featured now.
Mm,
The
mm.
media is looking for feel good stories. And the best thing about it is it's free. You don't have to pay, right? It's free. And they're
What do you mean, the
looking,
masterclass?
the masterclass is free and getting featured is free. So yeah,
Okay, okay,
freeness
okay,
all
okay.
around.
Venus all
Freeness all
around.
around, right?
What is this?
So
What is this lovely masterclass?
it is on the 24th and 26th of October. Of what am I saying? 24th and 26th of August. That's week after next.
24th
On
and
the
26th.
on the 24th, it's at 6 p.m. our time
Okay.
AST, and on the 26th, it's at 10 a.m. AST. But I'm literally going to walk you the steps of how to get featured. So by the end of it, I'm supposed to be seeing you on Oprah or wherever it is you want to show up. I just ask for a little hail out when you get your feature. That's all I ask.
So August 24th at 6 p.m. AST and August 26th at 10 a.m.
10
AST.
a.m. AST, yes. And it's
All right.
live, so you can ask any questions you want. And I would literally tell you what to do.
All right. So
Literally.
those are the dates of the masterclass down there at the bottom.
It's called Unleashing the Power of Publicity.
Unleashing the power of publicity. But I have a big conflict. That's when the summit is, man.
I know, right? But I'm speaking at the summit too, so it's all good. I'll figure it out. I'll
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
it
yeah,
out.
yeah. That sounds like a good masterclass to be in to find out stuff. Where can people sign up?
If you, I should drop the link, but definitely it's carlymedia.com/unleash the power of publicity.
All
Should
right.
I
So
drop the link?
I could put it here. You could drop the link in the comments right now so people can get it.
I'm doing
If you're
it.
on LinkedIn. What is the carlymedia.com?
Yeah, carlymedia.com, but it's unleash the power of publicity. But there's a hyphen between each one, each
Okay,
word.
that's long.
Yeah, it is.
Unleash.
I'm gonna put
So
it here, Jimma, so you can see it.
any link on the website itself?
Is it? It should be, but I just put it in the chats, so you should be able to see it. But if
Yeah.
you go to any of my social media pages, it's there. It's there because that's what I've been promoting all month long. That and the summit, obviously, but that's what I've been promoting all month long.
Oh,
Do you see it?
I see it. I see it. I see it. Unfortunately, why can't I copy this? Supposed to be able to copy it. My
I don't
goodness.
know why can't you come.
Anyway,
Why?
go to carlymedia.com. Check out Carla on her LinkedIn
Yes.
profile as well. She's on LinkedIn. What are the other platforms you're on?
I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Carly Communications, and I'm on Twitter at CarlyCom.
At CarlyCom on
Yeah.
Twitter. Where are you most active?
I am most active on LinkedIn.
She's most active on LinkedIn. So check her out on LinkedIn. Go to the website, carlymedia.com. Get into that masterclass on the 24th and 26th of this month of August. And put that up one more time. 24th and 26th of this month. And you learn how to, not
How to
mess
get
up
booked.
the bad with bad PR.
Yeah.
You'll be like, how to do it right. How to get
Yes.
booked.
Yes, how to get booked. And trust me, many people have gone on and they've gotten booked. So you can do it
Yeah,
too.
I want to get booked. Why should I be left out?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
you
Why
should.
should anybody be left out? Why should anybody in the comments be left out? I don't
I
know.
agree. Totally agree with that.
Right. Very much so. Let me just bring in my music here because I love it. I didn't play it at the start.
You did not, but it's all good.
This is the useful content creation music, the theme song. And it signals because we're 43 minutes in and we are 12 minutes away from the hour of 1 o'clock. I don't know if you're keeping track, Carla, but we don't
I
want to
have
keep you.
no choice but to keep track because I have to go teach in a little bit.
So it was so great having you on. I wish we could have had a slightly longer conversation, but we know time was tight this week.
Yeah.
I had so much more stuff to show from you, but it was great actually talking with you about the very specific things that we spoke about. And if you want more of Carla, go check out her masterclass. Any advice or parting words, Carla?
Any advice or parting words? I don't discount the power of publicity. Don't discount it. I feel like too many people, they kind of overlook it, right? But it's the most underused, but ideally the most powerful tool you have in building that credibility and authority in your brand. So don't overlook it.
All right, that's excellent stuff. And let me just say hello to Jamal Marshall, always dropping in and sharing some love. You know, Jamal is a faithful supporter of the Useful Content Creation Show, so I had to hail him out. And Shri Bye-Bye, Sweet TNT, she posted on LinkedIn. So thanks, Carla, for turning up.
No problem.
And we'll see everyone. Let's take it up with some, let's groove a little bit at the end here. Down. All right, bye everyone. See you on the platform.